The Lord be with you. During his reign, King Frederick William III of Prussia found himself in trouble. Wars had been costly, and in trying to build the nation, he was seriously short of finances. He couldn't disappoint his people, and to capitulate to the enemy was unthinkable. After careful reflection, he decided to ask the women of Prussia to bring their jewelry of gold and silver to be melted down for their country. For each ornament received, he determined to give them something in exchange, something made of bronze or iron, as a symbol of his gratitude. Each decoration would be inscribed, "I gave gold for iron, 1813. The response was overwhelming. Even more importantly, these women prized their gifts from the king more highly than their former jewelry. The reason was clear. The new jewelry were proof that they had sacrificed for their king. It became unfashionable, in fact, to wear jewelry, except for what the king had given them, an iron cross. Thus was established the Order of the Iron Cross. Members wore no jewelry except their cross of iron for all to see. What have you sacrificed lately? Perhaps you have given gifts to and through our church. Maybe you have been generous financially to groups rebuilding houses that have been destroyed in natural disasters. It could be that you give regularly to organizations such as the Salvation Army, the Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, Carolina Cross Connection, Salkehatchie. While you have truly given, have you truly sacrificed? Sacrificing means giving something that costs the giver and also affects the giver. A sacrifice costs. It is more than a gift. It affects the receiver, yes, but often affects the giver even more. It is more than a gift. I know of one business that allowed employees to share their sick days with other employees. When one of the employees became very ill, the other employees rallied to her. They knew that her family depended on her paycheck, and they also knew that her illness would keep her out of work for a very long time. She didn't have enough sick days to cover her absence. Before she returned to work, every employee had given her some of their sick days, and some of them had given her all of their sick days. Some made a very generous gift. Others made a sacrifice. It cost them. A sacrifice can be made only when there is great love in the heart. Almost every grandparent I know would do anything for their grandchild. Why? Because there is great love in their heart. Christians through the ages have been willing to exchange riches for poverty, their time for someone else's time, their convenience for an inconvenience, only because there is great love in their hearts. We know and love our God, who blesses us with all good things. You can't outgive God. God gives first. And we love God for being God. Such love is the true meaning and the true source of sacrifice. It is our order of the cross of Jesus Christ. Two wealthy Christians were on a business trip. One day in Korea, they saw in a field by the side of the road a boy pulling a crude plow, while an old man held the handles and directed it. "That's a curious picture. I suppose they are very poor," one of them said to the missionary who was their interpreter and guide. "Yes," was the quiet reply, "that is the family of Chi Nui. When the church was being built, they were eager to give something to it, but they had no money, so they sold their only ox and gave the money to the church. This spring they are pulling the plow themselves." The businessmen were silent for some moments. Then one said, "That must have been a real sacrifice." "They did not call it that," the missionary replied. "They thought it was fortunate they had an ox to sell." I was blessed to serve God at a church that made regular mission trips to an island that even poor people called poor. The mission teams filled their bags with clothes and shoes. They maxed out their weight limits, and then they paid for extra weight allowances to be carried on the plane for them. They worked for a week or more building cinder block structures in high heat and humidity. One of the buildings was a church completed by other teams that followed in the weeks after we were there. When they left, they took nothing home with them except the clothes on their back. Even the luggage remained behind. Everything was given to the people of the island. For some in my church, this was a real gift of love. For others in my church, this was a real sacrifice. So what have you sacrificed lately? I know I wish I had a better answer to that question. Amen.